Hello, Justin here. Gonna make another video. So if you haven't seen my last video, I talked a bit about that I'm doing WGU all over again here. I have noticed that it's been a little bit of a different experience compared to last time I did the program. So for those who are new to this channel, I did a program in 2020, a master's degree, and I did that in 5.5 months. And back then I had a few different approaches to how I routinely did my work. I generally tried to reserve a few days a week to working on WGU. A lot of people like to know that because they kind of want to know, well, how long are you spending on your assignments? So generally I worked a couple days on the weekend, so part of a Friday, then part of a Saturday, and maybe part of a Sunday to finish an assessment. And in some cases, I did even a couple assessments, and generally those were papers. I've talked about this as well. During the end of the program, I accelerated fast, so I was doing work most nights, and I was working really hard, basically like 5 hours a night for weeks. And that was in order to get the program done in the one term that I was aiming to do because I didn't want to pay more money for another term. Now this time around, it's a little bit of a different situation because I decided to study at WGU not for another credential, purely just because I wanted to get learning again, and I wanted to get more familiar with doing paper writing again. So for me, I didn't really have a specific aim, like even to complete the whole second master's degree, which is in learning and technology. But I kind of have this objective to kind of get in the learner mindset and then go into a doctoral program at 𝗀𝗃𝗯, and that would be in a couple months or maybe even a month, depends on some scheduling things. But as I'm doing learning, I'm kind of noticing that I'm really engaged and I'm working most nights. So right now I am spending most days working, and then I kind of reserve a couple hours in the evening to work on my assignments. And what I'm noticing is that I am learning a lot, but I know a lot of the content already, and I'll maybe make another video on this. Sometimes it's a little bit frustrating to have to kind of go through the process of writing a big paper on stuff that you already know, because it can be a little bit tedious and tiring to do, particularly just because it takes a lot of time to write a paper and it feels like busy work. The courses are going by very quickly. So I'm working maybe a couple hours in the evening and I'm doing a lot of concentrated work. So what I mean by that is, when I'm working, I'm working. I'm designating my 100% effort to working. I don't have a phone near me. I don't have any distractions. I'm usually at a cafe working, and I find myself kind of getting a lot done in a couple hours. And I do a lot of kind of handwork with my brainstorming, so I kind of free write ideas on paper, I mind map ideas. Sometimes I even look online for inspiration. Like I look at examples of other people's writing, and I look at videos, and I just kind of take notes to really kind of build my ideas. I look through some of my past work because a lot of the times I'm writing about my own teaching experience, and I kind of get inspired there. So I really focus in on that, and then I start writing, and I write. So probably in a couple days, I'm able to actually get through a whole paper, and I was able to do that with the first 4 courses. At this point, I was able to do a course in a week, and generally there's a couple papers involved. The last course I did was one big paper, and originally I was thinking, oh, it'll be easy. I have a lot of experience in the area, and it was, but it was a little bit tiring to do because I ended up being about 20 pages long, and I found that I was writing about stuff that was almost like too basic for me, like the concepts were too elementary in my mind, so I found it a little bit boring to write about, but I got through it and I submitted that paper, and I'm just waiting to hear back if I pass that one. Therefore, I'm in the next course, which is the 5th course. So do I find it exhausting to write every single night or to do some work every single night? I will say yes and no. Sometimes again, if I'm writing about stuff that I find boring or I'm not totally invested in, then I find it harder to get through and it can be very tedious. And I find, for me particularly, if I'm engaged in what I'm writing about, I get really into it. I get into a flow state where time just goes by fast. Sometimes I don't even recognize that I've been writing for a couple hours, and that's where you want to be. You want to be in that flow state and lose a sense of time so that you don't have to be kind of making it a grueling process. I think for me, what I enjoy most about learning is getting into those states, and then also finishing an assignment and then looking back at what I actually learned. So it is very possible that some people are doing WGU just to get a credential and that's it. But that is definitely not my mindset. My mindset is, can I still get some learning out of this. And I like to reflect. I almost take like a bird's eye view of what I just did, and I think about like, well, what are the main nuggets or the main learning takeaways? And then I think about, how do I apply that to my job? So for example, I didn't just do a learner analysis, I did a needs analysis in one of my papers, and I was actually able to bring that into a staff meeting recently and talk about like the systematic approach of doing this type of analysis, and we are now using it as part of kind of one of my jobs. And I find that really rewarding. So in my opinion, if you can connect what you're learning to your life in some way, even if it's a big stretch where, you know, maybe it's not part of your job, like in my case, I'm working directly as it relates to what I'm studying, but maybe you're doing studies that are not related to your work. But maybe you can generate some conversations with people about that. That will help you stay engaged. And I find that it's really important to have some element of interest in what you're doing in order to kind of go through the self-directed path, because you're not going to have those rich dynamic conversations you generally have with, you know, classmates or professors or whatnot. For me, I am still having to try to connect with either my mentor. I haven't connected with an instructor on a phone call, but primarily my mentor. I meet with them every couple weeks, and I just tell them kind of what I enjoy most about what I'm writing about. I try to keep it on the positive. If I have questions around how to motivate myself, I'll talk about that, but I haven't really had that case so far because I'm on a roll. Right now, my mentor really does want to meet with me every couple weeks, even if I'm accelerating. I guess it's a rule at WGU. Not sure why the rule is there, but it wasn't that case when I, you know, did my past program. I didn't have to meet every 2 weeks. But anyways, I'm finding it good to talk about what I'm writing about to stay engaged. So my current course, I am not writing a paper, I'm not doing objective assessment, I'm making a website, which is interesting because I teach design. So website design, I'm very familiar with, but in the context of education, making a website, it's a little bit basic, I would say. So it's kind of on the boring side because I'm already know how to do this. But again, that's part of competency-based learning. It's kind of like testing out. So for me, I'm not really testing, but I'm building a website very quickly, and then I'm going to submit it and then move on to the next course. I feel I'm most engaged when I can do something that's a little bit challenging. So this course in my mind is like, let's just get through it, and hopefully there'll be another course that'll be a little bit more interesting for me. I'll make another video on how I'm actually working through the capstone project prior to even jumping into the capstone, because the capstone in a master's is generally the last course, which is very robust and there's a lot involved. But I've already started that process from day one, actually prior to day one. And I think my approach is quite unique, so I'll share that with you later on. All right, there's my update, and I will just see you in another video.